Welcome to the Beyond Jiu-Jitsu podcast. This is episode 145. My name is Kieren Lefebvre, and I am joined by a black belt gym owner extraordinaire, Adam Childs.
Kieren, what's up, my man?
Yo.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Yes, we are here, episode 145, which is our first episode of now a recurring series of every 10 episodes. We talk about a particular position, technique, whatever it is that we've been working on for the last sort of 2 months in jiu-jitsu. People who have listened for a while would know that we've spoken about intentional training like multiple times. It comes up not just in our podcast, but a lot of athletes, competitors, people know this and do this. They train with intention, which a lot of people don't. But we're no different. But we thought, well, why don't we sort of publicize the things that we are training with intention?
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
So the idea is that because this is every 10 episodes, it works out really well that every 10 weeks we'll update you on a new position or a new sequence that we're working on. And we're going to change it, obviously, and it keeps me accountable. So I can actually progress my jiu-jitsu when I'm unsupervised. And Adam's gonna, share what he's been working on, and we're gonna get some good insight there from a black belt's perspective on how a black belt and a head coach, nonetheless, works on a technique without any direct input from another coach. So that would be really interesting for me to learn your system in more detail.
Yeah, because it's I've spoken about this before that, I guess regardless of the belt color, right? It doesn't really matter. But you get to a certain point in jiu-jitsu where I guess you start being able to credibly problem solve by yourself.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can be 1 month in and try to figure stuff out by yourself. Or you could be 1 day in and you try to figure stuff out by yourself. There's no issue with that. But obviously there's a certain point you get to, and it would be different for everyone, I guess, but you get to a certain level of experience where you can quite successfully problem solve by yourself, or sometimes you're forced into that situation. But prior to that, you usually have someone, an instructor, or hire more senior training partners with you who you can quite easily turn to, ask a question, and get given one of many solutions. So you've kind of, like you said, unsupervised. So we're now in a forced sort of problem-solving situation. I guess, it's been similar for me since I, opened my own gym and kind of do my own thing. I mean, there's still so many resources out there in terms of instructionals and stuff like that. But, there's also a lot to be learnt and figured out by yourself. And I think when you get to that point is when you really have a big kind of power spike in your jiu-jitsu, really. It has some type, to some extent has diminishing returns, but, once you move into that, I think I've explained it before, where it's kind of like any job. You could be, an engineer, or you could be a team leader, or a project management, or whatever. But let's say you're fresh out of uni engineer, everything you do is going to be supervised. Even if you solve a problem by yourself, the lead engineer on the project is going to be double checking your work and whatnot. But obviously if you get to the point in your career where you're, the or one of the top engineers on a project, problems happen and there's no one to turn to and ask, oh, how do I fix this? You got to figure it out yourself. And so, I find when you get to that point of jiu-jitsu, you have a bit of a power spike in your ability to figure stuff out, progress, learn, and a level of diminishing returns. But it's on the flip side, though, it's very frustrating when you can't find the solution, and you really wish you could just, turn to that instructor or that athlete who's an expert in that particular area, because sometimes you might own every single John Danaher DVD, but there's one specific like question that you have about one particular little detail, and you might not necessarily find that answer watching all the instructionals, and you just wish, when you can't figure it out, you just wish you could turn to that person and be like, when I try this keeps happening. I don't know why. What am I doing wrong? Like, you know, so it can be frustrating to not have someone just like give you the answer sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But in saying that, should we reveal what
the people already know
about?
Well,
hey,
the last couple of episodes.
First episode. We see the funny thing with the podcasting world, and this is something that people have brought up to me before listening to this podcast, is we assume that everyone listening has heard all of the episodes that we've released, that is up to date with all of our banter. So when we say, oh, we've already spoken about that, like, we've already spoken about this thing, so we won't repeat it. And then people are like, I have no idea who the fuck you guys are. But
yeah, so, obviously, yeah.
Adam, what technique have you been working on, and what are you going to talk about with us today?
So I've been working on for the last 2 months, really focusing in on Choi Bars, which, for those who don't know, it's an armbar, right? As you may have guessed, but a Choi Bar is essentially an entry done from the bottom, right, from a guarded position, usually, and it's an entry into a belly down armbar, really. And so that's what I've been focusing on pretty much exclusively. But it's funny, right? You focus on something, especially when it's one technique, rather than just saying like, oh my God, or even more than that. Like you might be saying like, or X guard or half guard or whatever. There's still, you say, okay, I've been working on half guard. There's still lots of things from half guard. What can you do from half guard? Well, Choi Bars is one of them, but there's sweeps, there's, entries into leg entanglements. There's like so many things, but when it's like one specific move, almost from just like one specific position, your training partners very quickly start, cluing into this one thing that you're relentlessly trying nonstop. Yeah. So it becomes increasingly more difficult to do, which is also kind of a cool thing, because then, it starts sort of, the layers of the onion start unraveling, and you can start finding other ways there. Or then that's also when you start seeing things like other things that present themselves while you're on the hunt for that particular position.
Yeah, and you unlock different branches of that tree. If we imagine, hunting for the end point, right, which in your case is the Choi Bar, by doing that relentlessly and it being so niche and so specific, like you're saying, then your training partners will offer different problems, or they'll try and avoid the position, and then you have all of a sudden opened up all these different branches in and around to the Choi Bar, or branches off the Choi Bar, and it just like builds that web out from that one niche position for you.
Yeah. So going to give some context, like going into it, like there's certain, when I think about what I'm choosing to work on, I guess I'm at a point in my career and in my personal jiu-jitsu that I'm not, I'm not really competing and chasing a world title and things like that. So I'm not exclusively looking to do things that will, in air quotes, make me better, or so to speak. Like, of course, any sort of deliberate practice is going to make you better. But I also have the fact that I don't have this one singular goal of winning, whatever competition. I have the liberty to kind of choose a technique that I just think is fun or looks cool, or, plugs a hole in my game that, okay, that hole almost never becomes apparent, but I just feel like closing that hole, like. Yeah, you do. You know what I mean? So,
you dirty boy.
But I guess, Choi Bars were quite complementary to the way I play guard, but the the reason I chose them was that, I don't know, I just wanted, in no-gi particularly, I play a lot of Z-guard, sort of. Z-guard, high knee shield is kind of the guard that I prefer to play. And I just wanted another attack from there. You know, I was becoming a bit stale with training partners in the sense that, you know, if I could get in under the legs, that was fine. But people started like being really sort of sprawl heavy back and making it really hard. And then, you know, I don't mind wrestling up, but, you know, sometimes you know, it's a bigger dude, or you don't feel like, you know, I'm not a wrestler. So it's not like the sort of thing that I could just do all day and every day. Or, you know, you've copped one too many guillotines from wrestling up and you're like, oh, fuck it. You know, so I just kind of wanted another attack from there. But yeah, so I started from a place of not really being able to do them at all and actually being quite terrible at them. You know, I would say if I was to look at all the half guard submissions that you can do from the bottom, I would say probably my worst one would be a Kimura. You know, like I really don't like.
Really?
Yeah, which is interesting because I don't mind Kimuras from the top. You know, like a Kimura from, you know, top half guard that might lead into a guard pass or a Kimura trap roll, or like north-south Kimuras or Kimuras from side control. And I like that shoulder manipulation. I like omoplatas a lot in the gi,
yeah,
particularly.
You got omoplatas.
But Kimuras just have never felt great for me. And
okay. Do you think it's because of your long arms?
I don't know. So this is like kind of connecting to some of the insights I've had to Choi Bars over these 2 months. And, you know, I feel pretty comfortable with them now. And I feel like, at least for my game, I've definitely progressed a lot in the 2 months regarding the position and the submission. But one of the things that I don't like about the Kimura, and this will make sense when we come back to talk about the Choi Bar, is let's say I'm like half guard on the bottom and I'm lying on my left side. So to reach over for the Kimura, it's my right arm that reaches over the top, right, and comes in round behind the armpit to lock it up. Like if people, they don't even have to hide their hand very much. Like if I don't have the Kimura as in the hand out from the belly straight away, like the reverse Kimura is just so strong against me, I feel. Not as in, like, people don't even need to attack it. Like, I just feel really weak in the back of my shoulder there. Like when people hide their hand and I don't enjoy that position at all.
Like when they bring their arm up in front of them for their reversed talk on your shoulder.
Yeah, and I mean, even if they're not attacking it, just the fact of them hiding their hand is already like a lot of tension on my shoulder. It's not like shoulders are a particular problem joint for me. Like, you know, my knees are my worst joints. That's where I've had all my surgeries, but I just don't like it, you know? And, but so when we look at Choi Bars, the entrance is different. So you do reach in that same sort of manner, but that, in this case, right arm doesn't like come all the way over the top and punch in through the back to get like a figure four grip. That's like your other hand kind of reaches a bit deeper, so you get this gable grip, like a shoulder clamp grip, you know, but like on the back of the elbow, tricep, sometimes even shoulder area. And that because then like my right arm, my elbow isn't flared up, that then translates to tension in the shoulder. It's like tucked in nice and tight, and I feel real strong there, that even when I might get the Choi Bar entry in terms of like connecting the gable grip, but they're hiding their hand, like I don't have any discomfort in my shoulder. So that was one of the big things that like I kind of first noticed. I was like, man, this is like so much better for me. It's like such a similar-ish entry to at least the way where I was doing it from, right? And I was doing it from like from Z guard, half guard, knee shield sort of position. You know, you can do it as well. Like a lot of people do it if someone's trying to pass directly sort of round to north-south without giving you the option to attack their legs, and then people will attack a Choi Bar from there, almost like a K-guard entry on the arms, which I've had. Go on.
Sorry, just when you finished, can you talk us through the full Choi Bar sequence from that Z-guard, half guard, or even knee shield from the left-hand side? So we've got on the left, you're reaching up, gable gripping, either the behind the elbow, tricep, or in some cases the shoulder. Where do we go from there?
Okay, so for this particular setup, and this was the main one that I pretty much was focusing on, rather than, these sort of reverse K-guard entries into it, which if that doesn't make sense to you, that was what predominantly Lachlan Giles was trying to do against, was it Ty or Cade that he fought? I can't recall which of the Rotolo brothers it was that he fought at ADCC, but that was the predominant entry he was trying to do. So not like that. I was doing it from Z-guard, half guard. So, I've learnt quite quickly that I felt that it was better to do from a high knee shield, okay. Rather than Z-guard. And I'll explain a bit more in a second why. But so you're looking for that far arm the same way you would look for it if you were looking for a Kimura. Okay. Yep. But rather than having to dive that top arm all the way over, you're just looking to gable grip around the elbow tricep area. Mm-hmm. And that's the ideal position I found to grip. The reason being is if you grab up near the shoulder, like I'm not doing a shoulder clamp sweep, right? Mm-hmm. If I grab up near the shoulder, like it's really hard for them to pull their arm out because I have their shoulder. Like if they can't free their shoulder, their arm's not coming out. However, it doesn't allow you to really internally rotate. I mean, it does allow you to internally rotate the shoulder a good amount, but like I really want the wrist to flip backwards. Okay. So when you grip at when you make that gable grip behind the tricep and sort of elbow area, your bottom arm, so in this case, my left arm, the side I'm lying on my left side, and you really start to like chicken wing that and pry that open and out, that facilitates like the flipping out of their wrist, right? It's doing the action that if it was a Kimura, it's doing the action of my hand that's holding the wrist and it's pushing, right?
Yep.
So that's like the grip you're looking for. You're then, crucially, you have to not get flattened out, right? This is also why the shoulder is not the ideal place to grip, because then that shoulder can just turn into a crossface, right? Like, because you can have their shoulder a little bit into, like, think about when you put shoulder pressure, right? If you crossface someone and you're putting shoulder pressure, you're internally rotating your shoulder on your own. So what does that mean? It means internal shoulder rotation does not equal like external elbow rotation, if you know what I mean, right?
I know exactly what you mean.
So you don't want to get...
It's the same with the shoulder clamp sweep. Sometimes if you go for that, you can give yourself a crossface by pulling the shoulder into you.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want to get flattened out and crossfaced. So then, going back to why I found that doing it from a knee shield was better, is your knee shield leg... It needs to go one of two ways. Like it needs to get on the other side of their head. So I want my leg on the same side of their head as the arm that I'm attacking. And so you kind of got two ways you can do that. You can either go all the way over their head, which is the option you would do if you kind of start getting flattened out. But, you know, to do that, their head essentially needs to get shoved down in between your legs. So it's a bit harder to do, to go all the way over their head and then land your foot on their hip.
Okay.
So with a high knee shield, it's usually a little easier to then get your shin up against their face, right? Their face, neck, collarbone area. And then you can extend your hip a bit to push their face away. And then you just like pummel or like slingshot your shin and foot the rest of the way over their head and land it on the hip, right?
Okay, so can you go over that again? So we have the gable grip on the tricep area. We have a high knee shield. In this case, we're on our left-hand side, so our right leg is the knee shield.
Yeah.
When you say push the shin up against their collarbone neck area, are you saying you're pushing your shin up against the left side of their face? And then
No. It would be the right side of their face.
Right. So you're getting it in the other way.
Like I want to push them. I want to push their head away from me.
Got you.
Right.
Got you.
So when you go from Z guard, from Z guard, you obviously from Z guard you can sometimes struggle to then get your shin and knee up in between both of you and your opponent's belly and chest to put a wedge, a shin in front of their face, pushing them away. Whereas if you go from a high,
so low,
because it starts so low, and they might be starting to flatten you out and whatever. Whereas if you go from a high knee shield, your knee and shin is kind of already up on their pec shoulder area, and you've just got to get it to the other side of their face.
Yep.
Right. And then it's a wedge pushing them away, and then you just let your shin like flick over their head, right, to put your foot on the hip.
Right, got you. So you're now, we all visualize this together.
Yeah.
You're on your left. You've got the gable grip. You've got a high knee shield on their right hand, on their left hand side. You're then going to bring your knee in to wedge it up against the right of your opponent's face, right? And create a wedge between you and their head. So their head is looking away from you now when you're wedging it, ideally. And then when you say to flick your shin over, are you essentially saying that you want to take your shin from being up against the right-hand side of their face to then over their head?
Yeah, so you end up, instead of having your shin on their face, your hamstring on their face.
Yes, got it. Yeah,
Right?
I'm with you. And then your left leg in this case is still in
My
half
left
guard.
leg's still in half guard, which is important to understand as we dive into more detail.
Okay.
But I don't want to. I'm trying to. This is probably really the most detailed we've tried to talk about one particular technique in an audio format. So, and it's things mentioned it multiple times, the difficulty in trying to describe the complexities of a technique audibly. But so I'm trying to.
I'm there.
I'm trying to be detailed with not being like, well, listening to this is a waste of my time, because it's like, right. So
I think just go for it. Just give as much detail as you can, and I'll try and be the friendly white belt here that's gonna slow us down.
So anyway, so then we land in essentially a belly down armbar kind of position, right? So that foot that's passed over their head is going to kind of sit on their hip.
Yep.
Okay. And then
on their hip. Right. So you bring it, your hamstrings on their face, and you're bringing it so you're really curling that down. You're
complete. Yeah. It's like it's going to sit on their hip the same way, like on the hip that's where their hand's tucked in defending the submission, right?
On there, all the way around to the other hip.
Well, when my leg, well, think I'm on my side, right?
Yep. You're on your left-hand side. Yep.
Well, just picture a belly down armbar, right? Mm-hmm. And that leg that's usually going, like, think when you end up in a belly down armbar for whatever reason, and think that leg that would typically be going across their belly, not the leg that would be going across their head. Think about that leg that would, instead of it going across their belly, it's stepping on their hip that's closest to me on the outside. Right, so I can step on it and push them away to pull the arm out that they're hiding.
Right.
I thought this was the easiest part of the explanation. Do you know what I mean? Or still a little bit lost?
I'm still. I thought I had it, but now I've got disorientated. Choi Bar.
Yeah, do a quick Google guys while we go over this.
Yeah, I am.
Anyway, so while you Google that image, so you know, I feel like we should play like an ad here that goes, pause the video if you know those ones that are like, pause now if you don't want the answer revealed, while you're trying to figure out the brain teaser that's playing in the video. Once you see an image, Kieren, or you understand what I'm saying, you're going to be like, oh yeah, of course.
I'm just going to Google belly down up.
Yeah.
So like, nothing from Choi Bar. Sorry, go on.
If we belly down armbar. See if we can find it.
Yeah. So I got a belly down. I understand a belly down armbar, right? And so you're saying that the leg that's normally across the belly is on their hip.
That hip that's closest to me, because then my leg passed all the way over their head, so it didn't thread in across their belly yet. I just stepped it on their hip, so I can like deadlift away from them to pull the arm out. Do you know what I mean now?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
So that's where we got to. Okay. Now.
Yep.
This is So this is where I think it's a bit of an insight into the way that I would learn a particular technique or something. So this is where I got to, and obviously it didn't, it was very obvious for me to say, a Choi Bar is essentially just an entry to a belly down armbar, right? Is essentially what it is really from the way that I'm setting it up.
Yeah.
And then that's very obvious, but I guess I never really put much thought into that, right? But then once I was, more or less successfully doing the entry with, like a few modifications and stuff, like minor details as to, like I said, instead of starting from Z guard, starting from, a knee shield and, which way my leg comes over their face and whatever. This is then how the self-learning process sort of went for me. And then I was like, well, this is quite interesting. I keep finding myself in what's a belly down armbar. You know what I'm really shit at? Finishing belly down armbars, right? And I knew that prior to going into the project, if you will. I knew that prior to going in. But like I said, I never really put any thought into it. I was just like, yeah, Choi Bars, that'd be cool to learn. So then I completely changed my approach to training. I was like, okay, well, I really just need to start getting better at finishing belly down armbars. So I started less prioritizing, I guess, the Choi Bar entry a little bit and just started looking for belly down armbars from everywhere. Unfortunately, they're a little harder to come by. They're not super easy to set up, except from Turtle, in my experience.
Yeah.
So then,
well, you have it right there. You can just jump on it, right?
Yeah. Depending
or even
where, like
four
how
post. I like taking a belly down armbar from 4-post.
Yeah,
posting.
Yeah, because then the arm's a bit more exposed. So then I just started, mounting people and like kind of trying to bait them into bridging and turning and and then that sort of had a trickle down effect of me realizing that I had opponents or training partners giving me belly down arm bars more than I realized, because I never used to go for them because I was so bad at finishing them. If someone was essentially bridging to escape mount and, giving the option for a belly down arm bar, I would typically value just trying to flatten them back out and retain mount more than going for that submission. So then I started
Sorry.
Go on.
I was just going to say, I also like, funnily enough, that my ears perked up earlier in the conversation when you were talking about the entry to the Choi Bar is similar to, think about it, similar to reaching over for a Kimura. I've been getting in that Kimura position a lot and transitioning, like essentially instead of doing the Choi Bar entry, doing like a Kimura entry to the exact same belly down armbar.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Well, see, there you go. Right. Because you could do the Choi Bar entry
with a Kimura grip,
or vice versa. Like you could do a Choi Bar exactly as the way I described, and then get all the way to where I'm talking about, and then switch to a Kimura grip and rip the arm out and finish the Kimura instead of finishing a belly down armbar.
Yeah.
So I started just attacking belly down armbars more, which led to the next natural progression of the great Choi Bar experiment. Right.
Which, like audio effect. The great Choi Bar experiment.
And yeah, it resulted in me becoming much more comfortable in finishing belly down armbars, and figuring out details that had it's not like they hadn't been taught to me. Like, I mean, they hadn't been taught to me, but not from lack of teaching, just from, I don't know, just it's quite a niche little thing that I figured out that was problematic for me in belly down arm bars. And it was kind of two things. It was one, obviously didn't have a problem finishing them if they weren't hiding their hand, right? Like if the grip was broken and the arm's fully extended, good to go. But I had two main problems. One, which was like breaking the grip, and the other was people defending a belly down armbar and essentially like doing to keep the explanation simple, essentially just like doing a kind of headstand cartwheel and then landing in side control on top, right? Like just kind of spinning out of it, if you will, jumping over, and so they were the two things that tended to happen for me in belly down arm bars. So, so I managed to fix those two problems as well, which not by doing anything super crazy. No.
I want to hear how you dealt with breaking the grip, and then I want to hear how you dealt with that jump over.
So what I found with breaking the grip, I found that the value or the power was really in that gable grip and that chicken winging lever,
right?
That I had on the elbow, because it really added for me a lot more torque. Like your when you gable grip, your ability to like drop and lift the opposite elbows, and that lever is so strong.
Think of a half Nelson.
Yeah, like it's just crazy, crazy strong, that I found it was way stronger for me, especially, than like to pry the hand out the same way you would to finish a Kimura from that position. Way stronger for me than a Kimura grip would be. Like I can never pry the arm out.
Really?
Bro, never. Like, but I can, like that gable grip, like, I don't know, I feel like maybe my forearms are super sharp. I don't know, I feel really good there. My ability to like have one forearm chop down on the back of your tricep and the other forearm lift your forearm, right? To like rotate your elbow, which is obviously going to lift the wrist and help pop it out. I found that really, really crucial to popping the hand out. So in this
case, your left, if we imagine again, we're on the left side, you've already done the entry, your right arm is chopping down on the tricep while your left arm is prying up the forearm.
Yeah, like that's the way I'm trying to break. So instead of pulling the hand out to break the grip,
I'm
twisting
trying to twist
it out.
Yeah.
And if you think back to a lot of the armbar grip breaks that you would have done with me from a standard armbar, and people are defending it, and when their forearms are linear, right, their grip is really strong. But if you can turn one forearm 90 degrees to the other, their grip becomes really weak, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to do, right? Is that same sort of thing. And that in combination with understanding how I was, how people would I don't even know if they were defending it, or more me making the mistake of how I was ending up in side control on the bottom when I lost it, made me way more comfortable there. So what I realized is here's that's going to get a bit more detailed in your leg position and the slight variation in this belly down armbar opposed to one that you might hit from turtle or mount. So this belly down armbar coming from half guard means you've still got that bottom leg in half guard. What's really important, I learnt through multiple failures of this, what's really important in a belly down armbar and not allowing someone to, jump over the top is which side of your legs, your shins rather, their head is. So a regular belly down armbar that you hit from mount or turtle, you usually cut your shin across the back of their head, right?
Yep.
And so that results in you having a hook on the back of their neck sort of thing, which controls their posture. But what's important is if your opponent can pass their head to the shin side of both of your legs, right, when they're in a belly down armbar,
they can jump over the top.
They can just like then just put their forehead on the mat, right, and just kind of jump and spin 270 degrees or whatever it is, and they'll land in side control, right? When you have that shin on the back of their head, in theory, their head is on the correct side to defend it, but because you're breaking their posture, they can't lift their own head off the mat to pass it over the other leg. Right? You with me so far?
I'm with you.
Yeah, because a traditional one, that my right leg in this case would already be threaded through across their belly.
Yes.
And right, a traditional one, I'd have that leg would be threaded through across their belly, and my other leg would be hooking the back of their head.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So
in the Choi Bar, it's not. That left leg is hooking their leg. It's in half guard.
It's in half guard, right?
Yeah.
But just dialing back for a second, right? I can't really, if we ignore, let's imagine I don't have that pressure on the back of their head with that little hook. We're talking about a traditional belly down armbar right now. Let's imagine I'm not breaking their posture with that shin on the back of their head and my other leg's threaded through across their belly.
Yep.
If I'm not breaking their posture, I don't have any way to stop them lifting their head over my leg that's across their belly and passing to side control. I have nothing stopping that.
Yep.
Right? So that's why it's fine in a belly down armbar. I'm breaking the posture. It's crucial, and they can't sort of cartwheel out in simple terms. But with this Choi Bar entry from half guard, my bottom leg is in half guard. It's not breaking their posture. Okay. So if that leg that we got confused upon when I talked about it stepping on the hip, if I thread that leg through straight away, right? Well, then I can't stop them from passing over it. And I'm not in a great position for that one leg to, like, my half guard isn't closed. I just have that bottom leg in a super shitty half guard. So the person comes up on a tripod, passes their head to the other side of that leg that you threaded through, and they can kind of just jump over your half guard because it's just one shitty leg. Like, you don't have a closed half guard at all, right? And then they pass. So this is what I figured out how it was happening. Okay?
So that is that why when you were saying that you keep it on the near side hip closest to you, is that why you do that?
Exactly. So now not only is that foot there to help kind of like deadlift and push them away and assist in the grip break,
that's super interesting.
It also helps me, like, as they try to kind of run around to tripod and walk over your head in a similar fashion to how you defend an omoplata.
They can't. Away.
Yeah, I'm pushing that hip away, and I push their hip away, and you can arch your upper body and head away, so you maintain the status quo, right? And they can't. Right. If you break the grip, then you're sweet. That leg can kind of thread through because the arm's extended, and they're going to do a shitty roll and land in a normal armbar and whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So all this combined, then the last thing that kind of added on to this was that a lot of the time, in combination with what I found, this fulcrum of the gable grip to pry the hand out and being much better at maintaining the belly down position. And for those who are, well, if you're still confused now and you've been confused the whole time, might be a bit late for you. But
I want to give it a go explaining, because I have a video up and I think I can try and watch the video through.
I was just going to say something very simple, which was that a lot of people get confused with belly down armbars. They think them as the attacker turns belly down.
No, it's called opponent,
it's called a belly down armbar because your opponent is belly down. More specifically, they're usually in turtle position, right? By the time you're in the finishing position. So all this combined, kind of facilitated a lot of people rolling, or sometimes like the combination of how close the arm is to popping out and how desperate they are trying to like tripod and walk their legs over my head, that I could just kind of, often let go of the gable grip and free your head and just kind of like push them over, just like throw their legs over my head, but not to side control. They would like flip over like they did a forward roll and then land in a regular armbar.
Do you ever try and chase them? This is like a little bit of an aside question and sort of talking about a belly down position in general and then the Choi Bar entry because it is a belly down armbar position. Do you ever keep inverting? Because we're finishing, do you try and finish on the side? Let me start that question again. When you're in this position, do you try and finish your armbar on the side or do you keep going and go belly down yourself and finish with your face on the mat and sort of chase them through that armbar?
I finish on my side because like if you go, you could get it face down. Excuse me. You could get it face down, but if you then like it takes off a lot of internal rotation off their shoulder, and once their shoulder externally rotates past a certain point, past a critical point, they're going to be able to like rotate and pass to side control. You know, like think
in this case, do they still have their grip?
Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if they still have their grip or not. But I guess
I was thinking they didn't have it. I was more thinking the finishing mechanic because I'm asking, I often do that. If after I've broken it on the side in that position, I then chase them around if they try and like jump or whatever, and then I end up belly down myself.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like it kind of depends like what way they jump and turn and rotate to some degree. But I also understand what you're saying about like inverting. Like often, if you're in a belly down armbar position and someone like jumps over you to defend, you can kind of re-invert back in under to a regular armbar. Because if you look at how a belly down armbar, propagates from a regular closed guard armbar, it's from getting stacked and you kind of pulling yourself in underneath them. And so you can kind of, sometimes that happens in the reverse. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, there's also other things like, this wasn't a new addition to the sequence, if you will, but for those who don't know, you can often, if you're attacking a belly down armbar, that if you remember back, we just mentioned it often can come about from turtle. Well, you can do that in the reverse. So sometimes I would, hit my Choi Bar entry from half guard bottom, whatever, and then just be really struggling to break the grip and like I'm just not getting it or something. And then the option to kind of double back and then come out to turtle and attack the back was there too.
How do you come out? So are you still on your side here, or you go belly down all the way and then bring your half guard hook out? Yeah,
that half guard leg is usually coming out for sure.
Yeah, and then it goes all the way around the head and then attack turtle from there.
Yeah, like it's a bit easier from a traditional belly down armbar to like switch back and attack the back. But yeah, like that was nothing new that was no extra addition to where I started, 2 months ago, because that was something I kind of already did, maybe because I was so bad at belly down armbars that I would quite quickly started ditching them to try chase the back instead. So, I mean, I think as a whole, if we were to summarize my Choi Bar experience, like it's definitely like I'm quite happy with the progress. Like I feel like I have another legitimate attack from a guard that I already play, rather than other deliberate trainings I've done where I maybe got better at something, but still at the end of 2 months was like, yeah, fuck that position or technique. I don't really like it. I feel actually like, I've actually added another attack to my game that is legitimate and will work. And, and it also had, the added benefit of being like, oh man, now I'm actually super willing and happy to jump on belly down armbars when people, bridge and roll and whatever, and it's there because, and then it also, I now actually feel really good about like forcing them from turtle as well, because the grip that has become, let's just say in the last 6 months, like if you were to say a technique or a grip was in vogue at the moment in jiu-jitsu, or if 6 months ago, was the power half from turtle position, right? So I was essentially more or less connecting a power half, right? Kind of, but I wasn't prioritizing forearm pressure on the back of the head. I was prioritizing like getting
prying
that
the arm.
gabe. Yeah, that's right. So like I started like really aggressively not aggressively as in like, look, you take an elbow to the head, but I just started really attacking them from turtle, So
when you, if I may, when you do that, say for example, you are in like a turtle position, you do have the power half, but instead of prioritizing the, on the back of the head, you're really prying their arm out. You're hypothetically, let's say we're attacking their left arm. So if we're all imagining that we're attacking a turtle position, we're attacking the left arm, we're on their right side, we have the gable grip, push down on the back of the head or whatever, or take the arm out, right? So your left leg in this case is going to slip in behind their head, and your right leg is going to go over their face for the belly down armbar.
The right leg's going to, in this case from turtle, you're going to land in a belly down armbar position, right? You're not going to have that leg stuck in half guard. So the side that you described it, my right shin is cutting across the back of the head.
Yep.
Right. And my left foot's going to go over their lower back to step my foot on their hip. And in this case, can thread through if I get the space, because I have the posture broken with that foot on the back of their head, which means they can't pass their head to the other side of my leg and pass the side control. And that power half grip in this side that you're describing, rather than my right forearm being on the back of their head trying to force them to roll so I can take the back, like that right forearm is going to be like chicken winging to pry their arm open as you cut the shin across the back of the head. So after 2 months, like I feel really good about it. Like, am I a bloody, expert on Choi bars? Of course not. But for me, I went into it just being like, oh yeah, they're pretty cool. And maybe give me a new attack, give me another option from a position where my students who I train with all the time kind of are very used to my game. And so, I've come away with not only vastly improving my knowledge of Choi bars, I've gotten a good entry from the guard I play. I've gotten another submission attack from turtle. I've gotten the confidence to, attack belly down arm bars, and way more technical knowledge and ability to finish belly down arm bars. So it actually kind of was one of the deliberate trainings that has probably had the biggest return on investment for me in the last sort of year.
That's really awesome. So it's funny, you mentioned just before we started recording, you're like, hey, let's talk about what we thought about the position before and then what we think about it now as a sort of format to the episode. And it's really ironic that coming into this episode, I had an idea of what the key elements of a Choi bar were. And now that you've explained it in more detail from a half guard position, it's completely different. And I was looking at some photos and a video of Craig Jones doing it while you were talking, and it did help a lot. Sorry, everyone listening, but I was over here fucking hacking the system. But when I learnt Choi bar for the first time was probably, I mean, I can't speak for you, but maybe it was the first time that someone had really sat down and taught it to you as well, was when Lachlan Giles did his armbar seminar.
It was for me as well. It was the first time someone really like sat down and was like...
spent 3 hours on armbars.
Choi
bar was about 30 minutes, but still. And in that seminar, I believe we did the setup from half guard, but the emphasis was Choi bar from that when they're trying to pass north-south, which is what you mentioned. And then it looks like more of a K-guard entry. And now that we've sort of spoken about the position, hopefully you can maybe imagine that. I mean, there's still, I obviously recall when we were with Lockie. I don't recall us doing it from half guard. Like I don't.
I'm not saying we didn't, but the emphasis was definitely on more that sort of entry from someone trying to pass around your legs straight to north south.
Exactly.
And so it's not like I walked out of that seminar being like, Oh,
I
yeah.
understand this now.
You
Yeah.
know, or like, yeah, I'm going to work on Choi Bar. So, I mean, that seminar was fucking almost a year ago now, or whatever it was.
It was probably a year. Yeah.
Yeah, but and I didn't really click with that entry as well because not that it's not good, it's just not kind of just didn't click with my game and the way I move. And I love a K guard entry, but I don't know, it just felt very like last minute for me to get my legs into the correct position to catch it without getting But so. But that, I mean, I guess having Lockie there definitely helped me have some sort of idea before pursuing it. But yeah, it's been a good sort of 2 months of training.
That's what I thought. That entry is what I thought a Choi Bar was. Now that you've described it from half guard, I fucking love it. I see myself absolutely doing Choi Bars. And like I mentioned, I had like this, click moment halfway through where it's like, oh, I end up in that position a lot from a Kimura. I use a Kimura to enter into that armbar, that belly down armbar all the time, particularly lately. So what I'm going to take away from this is my next 2 months in episode 155 is going to be Choi Bars, baby.
Well, why not? Like, I mean, I already spoke way longer about, like, I was expecting to speak for fucking, 20 minutes on.
No, that's super interesting though. I found that really interesting.
On a Choi Bar and then
yeah.
And then that'll be it. But yeah, also, at least for me, I found it, the one from half guard, just, like, okay, there's times you mess it up, especially in the learning process where you reach for it and you just get like flattened out or whatever. The same way that happens with Kimuras too, right? You reach for a Kimura and you just eat a crossface and get flattened out. But, because like with the Kimura, at least comparatively, I feel like the elbow has to be way more open because you've like that arm has got to reach all the way over their shoulder and punch through, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like for a Choi Bar entry, it's like just that bottom hand kind of needs to punch through that gap and connect the gable grip on the far side. And then you have the potential from there to, like internally rotate the elbow and whatnot.
Yeah. So just for people that are still like not quite there, this may be a waste of time, but I'm going to try and describe it as I see it, and let me know. Just chime in if I make a mistake in what I'm verbalizing. So if we imagine that we are in half guard on the bottom on our left-hand side, and maybe, I don't know, maybe they're going for a crossface. It doesn't really matter. You reach over with your left arm underneath their arm and with your right arm over the top. Again, imagine you're going for a Kimura, but gable grip your hands. The hand position can be behind the shoulder, or as Adam's suggesting, it's can be more effective lower down on their arm, on their tricep, because you're at the further end of the lever and you have more leverage to pry open their arm. And essentially you're trying to flip their arm, right? Now, with your leg position, you can go from Z-guard or knee shield. As you described, Adam, we're going to take it from knee shield. You're going to bring your shin in onto the other side of their head. So your shin will start on your opponent's left-hand shoulder. You want to bring it in on their right-hand side of their face. And then your shin then flips over the top of their head around the back side of their shoulder. And now you stop here. You place your foot onto their hip, right? Their near side hip from this position. Yeah. So that's what Adam's saying, and he does that for two reasons: one, to pry the grip open more easily, and two, to stop them from walking around, essentially escaping to side control. Now, the example that Craig is showing here is just sending it all the way through immediately.
Craig's fucking way better than me, so do whatever you want, Craig.
No, but it's this video is literally a 2-minute like thing. I'm sure it's just showing the very, very basics of the position, and it's also showing it from Z-guard. So it's different, but it's similar. And then now imagine that our left leg here in this case is still in half guard. Our right leg is now on the near side hip. We still have our gable grip behind their shoulder. Hopefully you've broken the grip from here. If not, obviously focus on breaking the grip in many different ways you know how. Or if their grip is already broken, you can finish the armbar by taking control of their wrist, yeah, thumb to the sky, pinky to your chest, and finish the armbar.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
Hopefully that helped. Yeah.
Yeah, so quite enjoyed it. I'm actually a little bit sad that now I've got to move on to something else to work on when, like I feel like I'm not getting to like reap what I sowed. It's like, well, now I just want to now I just want to keep doing them because I feel pretty good about them. But no matter what, when you're, it doesn't matter what you're working on in deliberate training. Obviously, other positions present themselves, or I could be working on back escapes next, but maybe I'm doing specific training where it's starting in half guard. Woohoo, Choi Bars for day, like whatever.
I'm gonna hit a Choi Bar tonight, and I'll send you a message that I hit one.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, that's awesome. I really thoroughly enjoy that. Legitimately,
hit it against the training partner with the elbows open. The guy who was
Martin.
Yeah,
Martin. He's actually away at the moment, the bastard, and he's gonna hear this, so he's gonna know I'm gonna hunt for it. But I'll still hunt for it.
Shit.
Yeah, shout out to Martin. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, do you want me to quickly talk about? Because mine won't take too long because it's pretty conceptual. I haven't really been. I kind of cheated because this is the first time we're doing this recurring episode where like, hey, we're going to spend 2 months specifically working on something and then present it to the class. But so, and it's really fortuitous, Adam, because you have been working on something specific. Now, I have been working on something specific, but it's been very conceptual. And this comes from after a competition last year. I finished the comp, did well, and you sort of pulled me aside and said, okay, like, good job, well done, you won and all that sort of stuff, but now it's time to work on your guard. Because as you're looking at my game holistically, and I'm not going to speak for you, but you're saying like your top pressure's great. When you get on top, you're a fucking menace. But in guard, you don't pose any problems. You're not really, you're trying to survive. You're not, there's no sweeping there. There's no attacks and submission from your guard. Your guard's not dangerous, is I think the terminology you used. So it's like it's time for you to develop that game. So exclusively for over 3 months now, nearly 6 months, probably not that long, but for over 3 months, I've been working on my guard. Like I've been starting pretty much every role seated. I've been, pulling guard, sitting to guard, just playing guard, putting myself in that position against everyone, bigger, smaller, doesn't matter. I've been starting roles in a guarded position and trying to focus on it. And man, I have seen insane improvements in my guard. I think I mentioned in a previous episode, but it bears repeating that my training partners in Sweden, they think I'm a guard player. Because I've been doing nothing but playing guard.
That's all you've been doing.
It's all I've been doing. And they're like, fuck, your guard is like, so hard to pass. I can't pass your guard today, rah, 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 all this sort of stuff. So they think I'm a guard player. Not unbeknownst to them, I've spent the last 2.5 years on my jiu-jitsu only trying to exclusively play top. So it's been really, really interesting. And I have learned a lot, but I distilled it down into a very short list because we have spoken about these concepts before. Adam, you've explored them in great detail, better than I could do. But a couple of things. There is a difference between no gi guard and gi guard, obviously. But pretty much between the two, I've been playing a open guard, if you will. So and half guard. A lot of open guard, a lot of half guard. So that's where my guard has been developing toward. And lately, like I sort of mentioned with me looking for those Kimuras and everything, I've been really honing in on my half guard game as well. So it was awesome to get a fucking 50-minute audio, but still a tutorial on Choi Bars. That was great. So the concepts is, this is for open guard specifically, is always keep your feet pointed toward your opponent. Now, I think that Levi Jones-Leary explains it like there's laser beams coming out from the bottom of his feet.
He does, yeah.
And to keep them pointed at your opponent's chest or head in that region at all times. Thinking about that concept,
it's such a good way to think about it.
Oh, yeah. Shit, yeah. And it makes perfect sense. Like, if someone controls your foot, get rid of their control. Like, pummel it in. If someone, like, moves your feet away from them, they're obviously going for some form of Toriondo pass or whatever. They're trying to pass you. Get your feet back in front. And there's drills that you can do using that laser beam technique and the feet off you drill and all sorts of drills to practice that concept. But it has helped so much. Half the time, my guard retention is just keeping my feet pointed toward my opponent. and they're like all confused about what to do. But it's just that's all I'm trying to do. I'm not actually doing any like real jiu-jitsu. I'm just keeping my feet pointed at them, right? Now, another technique or another conceptual thing is knees, elbows to knees and knees to elbows, getting your knees to your chest. You would have seen this a lot more than I, but when you are rolling and trying to pass a beginner white belt's guard, that's like one of the biggest mistakes they make is extending their legs for some reason.
Yeah, they just reach without intention, and that just separates the knees from the chest. And if there's nothing in the way of the chest, I can put my chest on your chest. And,
exactly.
Bob's your uncle.
It's
got to be a very Australian expression, doesn't it?
Bob's your uncle. Yeah, Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt.
What?
You haven't heard that one? The full one? Oh, no. Mate. You've been Australian? Anyway, so it sounds very simple, but that elbows to knees and that feet pointed, the laser beams pointed at them, those two in combination work brilliantly. And, simple ones in combination with that, always keep your opponent in front of you, or like the feet pointed at them works as well if you want to play that inverted guard, which I have been fucking around with a lot lately as well.
So would you just about summarize your current, like you said, let's say it's the last 6 months you've been working on guard, but it's been a bit sporadic because you moved countries, you got married, you went on a honeymoon, and like a lot of life things happened. It wasn't like 6 months of training, but let's just call it like a chunk of time. Would you say that the majority of your guard focus, you could almost describe it as you've just been working on guard retention to some degree?
My guard is not getting past, bro. Yes. To answer your question, my focus has been purely on retention, getting to the point where I am fucking unpassable, unless you're far better than me, but I'm clearly not. But I want my guard to be at the point where I'm like unpassable. Now I'm finally at the stage where I'm building an attack repertoire, and I've started with the half guard Kimura. I've been doing triangles and stuff, but really honing in on that Kimura and that belly down armbar sequence that I'm talking about. And I'm again super keen to add Choi Bars into that. But yes, almost exclusively the last 6 months, the biggest development in my guard game has been guard retention. Yeah,
and I mean we would have in previous episodes, I'm sure it's come up talking about the importance of guard retention and how guard retention gives you the liberty to have an incredibly offensive guard. And the way I always try to get it through to my students is I say, imagine if it doesn't matter how bad your armbar was when you messed it up. It didn't matter if you went for a triangle and they ripped their head out and whatever. Imagine if no matter what failed submission or sweep you tried from guard, your guard wouldn't get past. Then you're going to have the confidence to attack whatever. Mm-hmm. I went through a period of stopping triangles because I kept getting like stacked or kept having people turn the corner and like rip their head and arm out and pass me straight to side control. It's like, but if you have crazy good retention and you know that like no matter what, it doesn't matter if you throw a punch and it doesn't land, it doesn't equal you getting knocked out, and you're then going to be throwing down left, right and center. So I'd be, sorry, go on.
There you go.
I was just going to say, I'll be interested to hear if then in 2 months' time, like in 155, if you've then like narrowed it down a little bit, like if in 155 you're like, oh, I've been working on, butterfly half, and this is where I was 2 months ago, and this is where I am today, or like
I have been working on butterfly half.
I literally we have not spoken about that at all.
I've been working on half guard, butterfly half, because I know Gordon Ryan loves the sequence. I've been working on that.
No, well, you know what? That'll be super interesting for me because I the idea of the label, the watching people do butterfly half, whatever, I love it. Can I do it? No, I'm terrible at butterfly half. I'm really bad at it, and I'd like to be good at it. But so I'm not saying that's what you have to talk about on 155, or if it is, whatever. But like,
Well,
regardless of what you talk about in 10 episodes time, I'll be interested to hear you talk about, like, rather than just like, okay, I was doing some conceptual stuff and with my guard, and now I'm building actually offensive position sweeps, submissions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have been working on offensively in no-gi almost exclusively leg entanglements. So I'm like ironically, I'm the guard fucking leg locker at this gym. Like, that's what people think I am, which is, it's funny
It's like
because
it's like so opposite to like back
what
here.
I actually am. Yeah. Everyone knows who's like, top heavy pressure passer. But there I'm like the fucking, I'm still top heavy pressure passer, but yeah, anyway. So Mike, what I was going to say, which is ironic because it's literally what you said, but in a different way, is I wanted to put to you, I've been working on my guard. Now specifically, I've been working on half guard, been working on a bit of butterfly half, a bit of butterfly guard as well. Just all variations of open guard and half guard. What would you want to see in terms of my development now? Would you want me now to start looking at attacks? Or
I can already tell you what I think it could be. Whether we call it a butterfly half or not doesn't really matter. Like, you could choose that route, but more specifically, I would like to see you develop somewhere in the area of single leg X and X guard. And why do I say that? Because when you end up there, you're actually quite good there, and you've got good, powerful, like, legs and midsection for it, and you've got, like, the length of your leg. Like, my legs are long, so yeah, it's great if I stretch you out, but it's also can be really shit and the lever's so long that people peel the foot off the hip, and then it's hard for me to fit a knee back. Like, you're really good and compact there, and when you get there, you're great. But your ability to actually force the entry and get there is not so great, right? For example, one position that you can use to get to a leg entanglement, and if you think about single leg X as ashigarami or whatever you want to fucking call it, you're right. It's essentially a leg entanglement.
Yep.
And one of the ways you can get there is from butterfly half, right? It's actually a very typical way to get there from butterfly half is kind of scoop yourself underneath them and push them over the top of you, and you can potentially enter straight in on the saddle on that half guard leg, or if they pop up to their feet or whatever, you're in underneath into X guard or whatever. Yep. So, like, you're quite good when you get there, but you're, not particularly, like, you do quite nicely just the standard shin on shin entry to single leg X. But yeah, I think also gi and no gi, because no gi, it's like, you're quite good chasing the outside heel hook and stuff. But in the gi, that's obviously not an option. And, so that's then when we're more looking at, okay, well, I've got like straight foot lock as an option, or I've got sweeps as an option, So whether it's X guard or butterfly half, I think a natural progression for you would be something that connects to that. So whether you focus on entries to X guard in little air quotes, or whether you focus on, a couple of entries and now you're looking at sweeps and submissions from there, whatever. But that sort of area, I think, would be a super valuable direction to point you in.
Perfect. Awesome. And I do love that ashigarami X guarded position, but in no-gi. And I have found working in butterfly half, when you elevate or even butterfly guard, when you elevate, I tend to look for that circle in and around the outside for that X guarded position. And because you have the heel hook there, you can have straight foot lock if you're, if it's against the rule set or whatever. So I do like that position. But you're right, in terms of forcing the entry to X and single leg X, I don't have a good repertoire around that. When I end in the position, it's good, but I can't force the position as well as I should.
Yeah.
So
I think that'd be a good way for you to go.
Awesome. Fuck yeah. I'll work on that.
So as we near the end of our episode, have you prepared a Today I Learned, Kieren?
Yes. This is a Today I Learned / shout out, but more of a, you guys need to check this shit out because I learn about it recently, and I want to spread the word. I think hopefully I haven't spoken about this before. I don't think I have, but when I was on the 1-800 BJJ Help podcast, which you should check out that episode, it is Less Impressed, More Involved BJJ, the guy that runs that YouTube channel, Jake, which we did talk about.
This is sounding very similar to last week already.
Yes, but he has I might have mentioned that he has a platform. Did I tell you about this platform that he's built?
I can't remember. You mentioned you were like, oh, people don't realize that the guy from Less Impressed has a podcast, right? And
No.
you were like,
no. So this is not a no. So I didn't talk about this. He showed me after the recording this platform that he has built. I'm pretty sure he's released a video talking about it on his YouTube channel. Now, the platform is basically like a database search. So you can search any jiu-jitsu related term into this database, and it will show you exactly when that move set has been hit, in what competition, by which athletes, by the weight division, and the exact timestamp that the move occurs. Now, you can do things. You can do things like butterfly guard, butterfly half. You can look at Choi Bars. You can look at Kimuras. Anything. You can be as specific as you want or as general as you want. After you type in the search term, you can filter for the level of competition, the belt level, the weight division, the gender, whatever you want. You can all these different filter terms, and then it links directly to the Flow Grappling. If that's where it's hosted on, Flow Grappling, the exact timestamp to look at, who hit the move, whatever the result of the match, everything you need to know, or all the information about the match that you could possibly want to know, and it's all on a searchable database. So the reason that shouting this out is I'm making a YouTube video at the moment, which requires very specific footage of certain movesets being hit. Not because I'm doing a breakdown, it's relevant to the video, and when it releases, it'll be perfectly clear. So what Jake did is he used his platform, recorded a video for me, typed in all my search terms, talked me through it, and sent it to me on sent me that video. And I'm like, holy fucking shit, when is this available? So it is actually releasing very, very soon. In the next week, in the middle of this month, it is going out. And I think he has a wait list at the moment for the platform. For some reason, I don't know the name of it, what it's been called, but it's fucking awesome. So if you go to Less Impressed, More Involved BJJ, you'll be able to find a link to this. And if I can find it, I'll put it in the description. You can sign up to his wait list and get a discount when it goes live. Again, I'm getting zero financial compensation for this or anything like that. It's just fucking awesome, and I want the world to know about it. It's going to break the jiu-jitsu world, I think. It's really, really cool.
Awesome. What a fucking, that's sick. It must have been quite the undertaking. I'll be excited
he's been working on
look
this
at
for a year. He's got a developer on board. He's been fucking putting this together. And it started as a project to make it easier for him to edit his videos. And then all of a sudden it's built into this crazy software with all this back end, and it's just crazy. It's nuts.
Man, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my today I learnt is whatever the opposite of a shout out would be, I guess, which is
a takedown.
yeah. So
call out.
No, it's just funny, I think. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's jiu-jitsu related, so obviously some people might have already seen this, some haven't. But IBJJF, who people love to hate, right? And a lot of the time for valid reasons, just released a document stating some rule changes to gis, to uniforms, that will be implemented after the 2024 Worlds. So at least they gave some leeway. Anyway, it's like a 4 or 5 page document. It's on their Instagram. You can read everything. And I mean, it more or less makes sense. It's not, I mean, I think people are crying a little bit hard about it. It's just kind of some more specific details as to what's allowed and what's not allowed with
Go on.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. They're just talking about where you can stitch and where labels can go and colors and all these sorts of restrictions in the production of the gi. But the funnier thing is and it's a little bit confusing. I guess maybe I'm not super confused. I'm not a gi manufacturer, but I've had gis made from factories, so I may be a little bit more clued in, but like, it's just funny, man. The comments are hilarious. Like, you just read through them. It's like, can someone tell us what's new? Because I'm out here reading 380 millimeters squared by 80 ounces, like I buy my geese from NASA. Like, you know, and then like, you know, and then some is like, this is why nobody likes your tournaments. ADCC's taking over. You know,
Oh man.
all your rules are like rocket science. I'm so confused, which they are a bit. Like, I mean, I've done all the bureaucratic requirements from IBJJF, which I think's at least for me and my job is important as a head coach. But like when I've done the rules seminars and stuff with them, I still walk out at the end being like, I don't know if I learned any, like I'm still confused. Right? But just guys like, all your rules are like rocket science. I'm so confused. Also, pay my girlfriend that worked for you guys like a month ago. You know, like it's just, man, the
I
comments
can't find
are
this
so,
update. Is it on there?
oh, it's like, yeah, it's like way back. You got to scroll for quite a while. You know, and it's just like, and then other people saying concerns like, you know, you're just killing small gi manufacturers who, you know, are really going to struggle to meet these requirements and whatever. You know, it's like complaining about a tiny insignificant lapel tag is pretty ridiculous, but IBJJF is going to IBJJF, I guess. You know, and just like it's quite funny, like reading the comments, man. I had quite a chuckle. So if people want some IBJJF banter and bashing, feel free to read that. However, at the same time,
even Janji jumped on there and commented.
Yeah, Shanji commented. But at the same time, right, like if the upcoming like Jiu-Jitsu Con, which is like the sort of big event that happens around World's Masters, has had over 10,000 competitors register for it, you know, making it the largest single Jiu-Jitsu event in the world. So, you know, love to hate them or whatever, they're still a big part of the sport currently. And
that is true. Well, let me read one that just jumped out at me that is a little bit weird, that may affect some designs, is kimono pants must be made of a single fabric. Crotch area must be made with embossed braided fabric. So
I think it says it can be made with embossed, right? Doesn't it?
Must be made with a single fabric. Oh, crotch area can be made with embossed braided fabric.
Yeah.
But sorry, just to clarify, and I know this is probably boring for some people, but does that mean those kimono pants that you see where the crotch area is a different fabric and it's like stretchy, they're no longer allowed?
I've never seen ones that are stretchy.
Well, not like stretchy, but like different material.
So usually the crotch of these of like gi pants, and it's not just a gi pants, it's like karate pants, taekwondo pants and everything. They kind of have this like the inner thigh from one thigh to the other thigh kind of has this diamond shape sort of area that's like stitched in there. Essentially, what it's there for is why it's so your pants don't rip when you do the splits. Essentially, right? Like so when you open your legs, they don't rip. So it's saying that you know sometimes you'll see gi pants where that crotch patch bit is like is for some reason it's like the same similar fabric to a jacket of a gi. Some gi brands do that patch bit with the, you know, that weave fabric, and I believe that's what they mean by that. They're saying you can use that still if you want. Okay. But yeah, there's other.
I don't understand any of this fucking shit then.
yeah. I mean, like I didn't find it too confusing or over the top, but I was also like, you know, whatever, like, you know. People be hating, and regardless of what they do or say. But yeah, that was my
here's
little thing.
The fabric for the kimono pants must be between 220 grams per meter square and 300 grams per meter square. So they're like saying that they can't be any lighter than that.
Yeah, and they did that for the jacket as well. They said the jacket has to be, I think, between 380 and
650.
6 something.
650, yeah.
Yeah. So, to be honest, man, like
what about those really light ones?
Yeah, what it means is you're not going to be able to, like competitors would typically have like a comp gi that would be super thin and light. So it would be like a good 500 grams lighter to make it easier to weigh in. Yeah. They obviously have to put the line somewhere. Like imagine, and I find it hard to argue about a point like that because the line has to go somewhere. Like imagine if someone turned up with like one of those paper thin taekwondo gis to make weight and you'd be like, well, that's just going to fucking rip, isn't it? Like, I mean, where's the line? It has to be somewhere.
And I will say that in gi, depending on what gi, like everyone has rolled with someone where they're wearing an old gi or maybe one that's too small for them now, and it is so much harder to get like grips in general, especially pant grips. So like the size requirements, this is more leaning toward the size, but also like the fabric choice and the weight of the gi, it all plays a part. It all makes a difference in how it affects your jiu-jitsu on your opponent. Like you were implementing
it does.
your
Like
game.
Yeah, like I don't find the direction they're going. I mean, I didn't completely understand the document, nor did I study it, but I don't find the direction they're going that offensive. I mean, if you look at judo gis, they're incredibly strict because gripping is like the sport of judo doesn't exist without the gripping of the fabric, So if they didn't meet certain measurements and requirements and whatever, so essentially there's 3 main areas of the gi that like they're trying to control, which is like, and it's all to do with it being a level playing field for everyone being allowed to grip appropriately. So, it's the size of the gi that has to fit a certain way, the thickness of the material, and where and how you can embroid and put patches and stuff like, so you can't embroid a patch somewhere that is a crucial gripping spot because then like, it's like really hard to make. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they're just trying to make a level playing field for everyone. It was more the comment section that I found.
Yeah, I'm looking at them now. Have you jumped on and seen the comments from some actual gi manufacturers that are saying, like one here, never heard of this brand, I'm not even going to read it out, but they're saying you have really discriminated against many of the athletes wearing our brand, while the athlete on the next mat is not in regulation uniform. Not sure what that means. You are taking away the market of many brands that don't have multi-million-dollar manufacturing budgets. Stop the favoritism and let the athletes compete in the brand and style they want. Sure, white, black, and royal blue, fitment, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think, unless you're like Adidas, I don't think like any gi manufacturer has $1 million of budget for fucking gis. Like, I don't know, maybe they do. I don't know. I'm not privy to that sort of information, but it's not like, it's not the biggest market in the world, But,
I mean, Hyperfly and some of the bigger brands, like
maybe
the other one, Tatami, they would be making a fucking bit of coin.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, anyway, it's that was my little shout out. So if you want some lols, have a read of that. But anyway,
don't even bother looking up the requirements. It's not that interesting. It's seriously not that interesting. Look, just make sure it fits. Like if your fucking gi fits and you don't have patches in dumb spots, you'll be fine, right?
I don't know. I guess so.
And it's the right color.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that'd be sweet. I don't know how they're going to be able to go. Oh, that's 350 GSM and not 380.
Oh, the way.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, that was that was our second go at a recurring segment, but our first go at what will be a recurring episode, and hopefully you enjoyed it. I mean, obviously, if you're still at this point, you have, but I think that was I enjoyed my project of Choi Bars. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Can we know what the next one is, or have you not decided yet?
No, I think I have decided, but I might change it just based off your question where you asked me advice as to what you should work on. Because I was going to just kind of
go to work on X guard.
Yeah, I was just kind of going to work on X guard just because it's like a guard that I like, but I'm not particularly great at. And I feel like I should be better at it than I am. And I also wanted a guard. Actually, originally I was going to do spider guard. And I'm very on board with, if you're in the gi, do grips and whatever, but if you're in no, like, opposed to having a game that works in both, but,
I get you.
But if I wanted to pick something that is so I can kind of talk a bit more gi and no gi. So then I was like, I'll do X guard, but then that's what you're going to do. So I might change it. Undecided yet.
Well, it's funny. My gi and no gi game used to be like the same, but then I started working on pressure passing in more detail, and I used to try and, if you look at some of my earlier competition footage, I'm trying to pressure pass in no-gi, and sometimes it works, but a lot of the time it doesn't, because that style of over-under does not work in no-gi. You need the pant grips.
I think it used to back in the day, but no-gi's come a long way, and you need those grips to anchor you into that pass.
Oh shit, yeah. So now I actually pass in no-gi Toriando style. I go around and like I'm in and out, and yeah, you wait. I'm fucking a new guy this last 3 months, bro.
Yeah. So last episode we were talking about like Kieren's excitement to train with certain people when he comes back, and his overall strategy for me is just have a good gas tank because mine's so terrible. But now it's going to be like Kieren's going to walk into the gym with a good gas tank and a list of everything I've been working on incrementally over the past 2 months.
In order. Oh, shit. I look forward to it. I got to have some sort of fucking advantage here. Come on.
Yeah. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what I work on for episode 155. I mean, I was already working on X-Guard tonight, specifically with people who I struggle with at doing it. But yeah, maybe I'll change it, or maybe I'll do X-Guard and, we'll just be bouncing off each other in the episode. We'll see.
Yeah, that would be good. So you go first, though. All right, we'll leave it.
All right, guys. Yeah, thanks so much for listening, guys. As always, if you want to send us any messages or any questions, at @BeyondJujitsu_podcast. Message me directly on my gym Instagram, Vantage Jiu-Jitsu. Message Kieren on his YouTube, his Instagram, Kieren Lefebvre. He's everywhere. All right, guys, thanks so much, and we look forward to seeing you, episode 146.